Dear all, on behalf of BMA and President Dr. Kiran Yadav, I welcome you all to this Wednesday Wisdom webinar. Our honorable speaker for today is Mr. Gangadhar Mutathi, and moderator is Dr. Vishnu Kanhere. Without taking much of your time, I'll hand over the things to now Dr. Vishnu Kanhere to take it over as a moderator of the today's webinar. So over to Dr. Vishnu Kanhere.
Thank you, Jain sir. Good evening and welcome again to Wednesday Wisdom webinars. This is the third, as Jain sir pointed out, this is the third in the series of Wednesday Wisdom webinars. Dr. Kiran Yadav has activated and ensured that all the three, the Wisdom webinars as well as welcome, sir. You want to say a few words? You're not audible.
I'm so sorry. I said
you're muted.
I had to download Zoom all over again because it got corrupted.
No problem, sir. You want to say a few words before I introduce the speaker? Maybe just share your thoughts about Wisdom webinar. I was just telling them how it's really important in the modern age.
Don't worry. I'm with you. I'm with you. Please go ahead.
Okay. See, the objective behind the Wisdom webinars and the Saturday program which we started and the Friday fundamentals is ensuring that managers, those who are aspiring to be managers, those who are already managers and leaders as well as corporates to remain up to date in this changing world. Change is the only constant in today's world, and in that context, today's session is especially very valuable. I'll first introduce Gangadhar sir, and then I'll say a few words about today's seminar. Gangadhar Mutathi has an experience of 22 years in management consulting, a very long innings, and out of that, 5 years is multifunctional experience, where it's not just one, but he has handled a whole lot of portfolios. He has worked with giants like PwC, Mercer Human Resource Consulting, Towers Watson, and Tech Mahindra, all in very senior positions. He was a senior team member on digital transformation projects, which makes it very significant because today we are all, the digital transformation is upon us, so to say. And he has done it for large global companies, not just local or SMEs, such as John Deere, Caterpillar Inc., and also FIFA. So that's very interesting. We'd like to hear something from you, sir, about it. Now, he leads Cube Acumen, a business simulations company that provides experiential learnings and programs based on digital simulations. So Gangadhar has worked in the areas of strategy execution, business acumen, change management, leadership development, organization design, performance management, and rewards. I mean, one could really say the fields which you have covered really encompass, executive leadership development. So you have kind of touched upon all of these in the course of your work. So Gangadhar is an engineer, MBA. He's an alumni of XLRI and Jamshedpur and NIT Surathkal. He's a Kaplan Norton Strategy Execution Certified Graduate. And of course, his presentation will carry his email ID, so I need not read it out. Now, just a little bit about the topic of today and why it is significant. If one looks at it, social media, mobile, artificial intelligence, then your big data and cloud computing. These are some of the things which have really revolutionized things. And I'll, on top of that, add one more thing, and that is remote working. Thanks to COVID, what has really happened is it has transformed, magically transformed the management scene. It has even transformed the leadership role. So we will like to hear a lot about this, the transformation in executive development, which has happened because of simulation. Let me just share you one thing about simulation. Moment he said simulation and case studies, I remembered the prisoner's dilemma, where really the prisoners would benefit if they cooperate, they get the maximum payoff. But actually, logically, they don't cooperate. And so therefore, they have to settle for something less. I'm just reminded of that. So on that small note, I think I'll not stand between you and the speaker. I'll hand it over to you, sir.
Right, sir. Right. Thank you very much, sir. Today's topic, as Vishnuji mentioned, it's all about business simulation being the medium for transforming executive development. I'll first share my screen. Hope it's visible to all.
Yes, sir. It's visible.
Yeah. So the contents I would like to cover for today's short program is that before we get into discussing about digital business simulations, I wanted to give a backdrop as to where does this fit into, where digital business fits into the overall scene of learning and development. So I want to start with what is the future of L&D as seen by some of the gurus of L&D, followed by a short video on the latest trends seen by various consulting organizations. Then I'll dwell briefly into digital simulation, business simulations itself, what they mean, how they are advantageous. Then we'll have another video, not a short video, but a decent video on learning and on learning by experience by a lady who comes on TEDx. And this is a very important video from the point of view of how people in agriculture have used their model to develop learning programs for corporates. Then I also want to take you through a brief tour of a business simulation itself, because some of you may have experienced business simulation, some may not have may not have actually seen or experienced a business simulation. So I want to take you through a actual simulation that we have developed to you, and then finally we'll wrap it up with this. Right. So one of the things that happens in L&D, I mean, most of the people who are chief of L&D or chief of learning and development, training and development, they face is that what is the money being used for, and what is the ROI of learning and development? How useful has the learning been? So many people have this, and most often the CFO is the person who raises this issue by asking the CFO. Typically, the thing is, what happens? The CFO asks the CEO, what happens if we invest in developing our people and they leave? No doubt the circumstances are such that many people stay in a company for a very short duration. They learn and they jump to some other organization. Obviously, the seniors within the company, the executive leadership has this worry as to why should we put money in something where people learn and leave us. So if this is the situation today because of COVID or any technology changes that are taking place, a smart CEO would ask the CFO the other way around. The CEO may ask, what happens if we don't invest in them and they stay back? So this is a dilemma. The CFO may say, what happens if we invest and they leave us? Whereas the CEO asks, what happens if we don't invest and they stay back? So you are saddled with people who are less trained, or compared to your competitors, they might be less trained and less agile or less capable. We all know that companies say, let us invest in our employees. And there are certain companies like Virgin Atlantic Airways, where they talk about, Richard Branson, the CEO of that company, says, clients don't come first, employees come first. If you take care of your employees, they will take care of your clients. This is one school of thought. This is not the only school of thought, but one school of thought that basically says that if you invest in your employees, then the business will flourish. This may be true for quite a lot of companies which are in the service industries, and it may not be directly applicable to companies in many other industries. But nevertheless, underlines a very important point, and that is you need to invest in your employees. Yeah. In another webinar, you know of leading learning and development and an HR leader called Dave Ulrich. Dave Ulrich asked a question to the participants. The question was, what is the most important thing that business or L&D leaders can give an employee? This is like a survey question, although I'm not putting it up for a survey in this seminar, in this webinar, but this question was asked, and the participants were to select one of the five. The five were that the most important thing is a sense of belief, that is meaning and purpose for employees. Second, an ability to become better, learn and grow. That is what the business leaders or L&D can offer. L&D is learning and development. Third, business leaders or L&D can offer a feeling of belongingness, that is community relationships within an organization. Fourth is all of the above. Fifth, none of the above. Naturally, you would think that 98% what happened is what you guessed. That 98% of the people said number 4. Yeah, but Dave Ulrich wanted to differ on that and said it is 5, none of the above. So what did he say? He said that what L&D or business leaders can offer an employee is an organization that succeeds in the marketplace. This is what learning and development should actually contribute towards. That is, making the organization successful in the marketplace. Because if there is a success, if there is a staying power in the marketplace, then there is a workplace. If there is no marketplace for the organization, then there is no workplace for the people, and then there is nothing that L&D can do about it. So the point was to look at the canvas of learning and development in a much broader sense and see how it can contribute towards making employees capable enough to garner significant competitive advantage. So basically, what he pointed out was that L&D or learning and development is not about learning, but value created for others. So the question of ROI of L&D or learning and development is all about creating value to others. Value for others is the most important thing. And who are these others? Most often we think that learning is meant for the development of the employee. No doubt it is meant for upgrading the skills of the employee, but the purpose is the end is not in upgrading the skills. Upgradation of skills is only a means to enhance the value for those others, and the others could be both inside the company and outside the company. Yeah. So outside the company means the learning and development is contributing towards development of the capabilities so that they can cater to the needs of the customers or investors or vendors or alliance partners or technology partners, any of them. So look at the entire canvas beyond the company and the individual. Next is, since the business of L&D is to create value for the people, all the stakeholders, the value is defined by the receiver more than the giver. The important point here is, earlier, learning and development was driven by what the management thought was important for the employees to learn. Okay, but now, since the competition and technology have changed so much, that it is now equally important to understand what the employee wants to learn so that they know firsthand what they should learn in order to be more efficient and capable to address the problems that they face. So value is defined by the receiver more than the giver. Second, learning and development needs to serve all stakeholders, inside and outside. This was the point that I was mentioning earlier, that it is not enough for learning to ensure that only people are learning something, but not able to apply it. When you say to serve stakeholders, it means ability to apply the learned knowledge in actual business situation. And third was to improve the impact of learning and development through technology. That is, how can you make learning and development or whatever you want to, whatever the company wants to provide as knowledge and skills to the employees, how can it make better impact or larger impact by using technology? Because technology changes the way people will learn, whether it is byte learning, bit learning, whether it is remote learning, or it is any other way of learning. Technology can help in scaling up, which means what used to take maybe 1 week to train 50 people, today you can train 50 people in one day because of technology. So the scale and the cost are also very advantageous if you go through that. Now, this is the backdrop I want to give, that the future of L&D is all about how it is important to convert training programs or learning programs which are suitable to the employee's needs. Second, that learning program is not just about upskilling the employee, but also to serve all other stakeholders. And finally, to get a larger impact through technology-enabled learning. I would like to take you through a brief video uh, around what are the new trends in L&D. What are the topics in L&D that people find are very important that employees need to learn? Okay, it is not specific to domain, but it is specific to skills. I'll just change the screen here.
(2023) Global Learning and Development and HR Trends 2023. Let's talk about them. I searched.
Can you all see and listen to the video?
No, it's not visible, so you'll have to do the same way like you did initially.
Okay, sure.
We can hear it.
Can you see it now?
Yes, we can see it. Thank you.
Learning and Development and HR Trends 2023. Let's talk about them. I searched and analyzed 10 plus industry reports, including Gartner Top 10 HR Trends for 2023, Deloitte 2023 Global Human Capital Trends Survey, so you don't have to. There are many similarities between them, and I have drawn 4 very obvious trends. Let's get started. Trend number 1, employee experience. Employee experience is the summary of all employee experiences within the company. Number 2 is passion for neuroscience of learning. Neuroscience of learning is the study of how brain processes and stores information during the learning process. The integration of neuroscience into learning and development is relatively new trend, but it's quickly gaining momentum. By understanding how our brain functions, you can create more effective learning programs tailored to individual employee needs and help your business maintain the competitive advantage on the market. Some of the principles of neuroscience of learning include neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity is the brain's ability to change and adapt in response to new experiences. Learning styles. Each and every one of us has different learning style, and this is something that is influenced by many factors such as your genetic makeup, past experiences, in individual difference in brain structure and function. The most famous and the most known learning styles are visual, auditory, and kinesthetic. Transfer of learning. The ability to apply the knowledge and skills learned in one context to another context is something known as transfer of learning. This is an important aspect of learning as it allows individuals to adapt to new situations and apply their knowledge to solve new problems at work. Metacognition. It involves being aware of one's own cognitive process such as attention, memory, problem solving, and being able to regulate and control them. Metacognition is essential to learning as it can help individuals to become more effective learners. Trend number 3, emotionally distant management is a thing of past. Trend number 4, employee well-being is here to stay. This trend isn't new and it's not going anywhere, and it's going to continue next year. Now you look at skills that will be in demand in 2025. I'm sure you have seen this picture a lot before. It was widely reposted on LinkedIn. If you haven't, the World Economic Forum released the top 15 skills for 2025. Analytical thinking and innovation, active learning, learning strategies, complex problem solving, critical thinking and analysis, creativity and originality initiative. If I shorten this list even more, we come to analytical skills, smart learning, problem solving, creativity and innovation. For today, thank you very much for watching this video.
Yeah. Can you see my new screen here now? Hello.
Yes, yeah.
I'm
We can
audible?
see your slides. Yeah, you are audible and we are back to the
So,
presentation. Yeah, you can
so
continue.
so this was basically a lady called Lisa Stus. She works out of the Middle East, but originally from UK, Eastern European country. Now, the point to be driven there was what are the trends and what are the learning programs which, according to World Economic Forum, are going to be important for employees to learn so that companies can be more competitive in the next few years, that is still say 25, 27, whatever. So the idea of this video was to bring about one of the important points was neuroplasticity, which is gaining a lot of momentum in the learning sphere. What neuroplasticity says is that how the brain understands and learns through experience. Now, this is where the point was to bring about that experience changes the way the brain thinks and learns. And therefore, one of the point was to bring about business simulations digitally so that the learning is faster, and the neuroplasticity is that the more you practice the same thing, the faster it learns. It's just like learning a bicycle or learning swimming. The more you practice, the faster you learn and the better you remember. The retention is higher. Okay. Learning basis here, the point here is that we know learning can be either individual based. That means a person can sit alone and learn just like we do in our education institutions, whether it is technical learning, job-oriented learning like programming or Excel or any other software skill. Any skill-based learning, which could be something to do with learning about machines, learning about some technical aspects of any job, or it could be just knowledge acquisition. These are all individual. You can learn things individually. But not all subjects, not all areas can be learned on an individual basis. Quite a lot of management related subject areas are best learned in a team form. Things such as leadership, how to lead people or what leadership means, or teamwork based things like project management, complex problem solving, change and transformation. These are the kind of subject areas where learning is best possible in a team environment rather than a individual environment. I mean, it's very difficult to learn about change and transformation sitting alone and reading in a classroom. You need to practice it somewhere. And why this is team-based learning is important is because as we start to compete both within our domestic markets and international markets using with our employees need to be able to do many problem solving of many business challenges in a very short span of time. And not everywhere AI can be very helpful at that moment of time. So learning different skills, which are where people need to work together, is very important. And one of the things that we also saw in the video was how to carry what you learn to the workplace. End of the day, any executive leader in a company would like that the knowledge that is learned can be applied. Unless there is an application of the knowledge, nobody is going to be very happy with what people are learning about. On screen, you will see a person whose name is Josh Bersin. Josh Bersin is a very famous HR consultant and a L&D consultant. He was earlier working with Deloitte, then he formed his own consulting company and changed back to Deloitte. He sold his company to Deloitte. Now, the point that he's trying to make, and we can see broad true in the earlier days. But now you see the way Josh version tells is that you. Now, let's take an example of sales guys. Deep specialist skills, that is a vertical column. But it is not enough for deep generalists. They also need to know lead segment, client consulting, and so on. Now, this T shape is applicable at a certain. Sorry. So this T shape, what you see on the screen, is applicable probably at the lower level of a sales organization. As you go up the organization ladder, the broad skills, that is the deep generalist skills, will include finance, or it could include HR and many others. Similarly, the vertical things would include their domain knowledge. So the point here becomes that we need all the employees to be deep generalists and deep specialists. It was enough earlier to be generalist and deep specialist. Now the world has changed, and that requires us to be deep generalist and deep specialist. That's where, given that background, that we require people to carry learning to work, and what Josh Person says and what Devalji says, we come to a there are many ways in which people can be enabled or made capable of doing all those things. And one of the ways is by using digital simulations. Now, a digital simulation is what? As the name many people are familiar with, digital simulations are basically interactive computer-based programs that mimic the real world business operations, dynamics, and decision-making process. It's basically bringing the outside world into the classroom so that many of the things that are happening in the marketplace can be replicated within the classroom. Second, in a business simulation, a range of exercises and activities are designed to align with the responsibilities associated with the roles within the company that require the participants to apply skills and make relevant decisions in a robust or secure environment. One of the important things here is that simulations can be customized, simulations can be tailored to that situation, tailored to particular learning objectives. So a range of exercises within a simulation or different activities can be designed and developed so that learning can be as per the roles and requirements of the companies. And finally, digital simulations are a conduit between learning and real life application, or virtual business simulation facilitates a collective learning experience. Now, this is where I wanted to bring about that business simulations, most often, there are two ways. Simulations can be used for individual learning, simulations can be used for group learning. Today, what I'm talking about more is about group learning or team-based learning. So these business simulations they help in collective learning experience for the participants. How do they differ, or what are the benefits of digital simulations compared to traditional learning? If we take our classroom learning and how we teach and how we learn, or even in the corporate world, we see that the learning and retention increases as we have more and more participated form of learning, while the passive teaching, which is lecture, reading, audiovisual, or demonstration, can be the retention level is up to 30% of what has been taught. This significantly improves if you have group discussions, practices, and teaching others. That is, if somebody learns and is capable of teaching others, then he has learned the most and he is able to retain the most. So that is the highest level in which you can go. 75% retention is possible if you practice. That is, what you learn, you practice it then and there. Learning in tandem with practicing. So that gives 75%. That's where simulations come into play. Simulations are done at that 75% retention level. So it has got a very high level of retention because of practicing and interacting or immediate feedback that comes into the loop. Typically all these business simulations, they ensure, or they are capable of higher engagement and higher retention. They promote higher engagement. People who are going through learning program through business simulations, the digital simulations, they are very engaged. They are involved so much in the entire thing. There's a prompt feedback and enables reflection. I'll actually show it to you in the feedback and in the form of how feedback takes place live in a digital simulation. Whatever decisions you take, what is the impact of such a decision on either the profit and loss account or any financial statement, you can see it immediately. The third is digital simulations offer low risk environment. You can fail multiple times. Means if you practice change and transformation on a live case, you can't do that, because if you fail, then you really lose something. You really lose a chance to change something. For example, if you want to change a process, or if you want to change a new way of doing projects, then it is better to do through a simulation, practice it through a simulation, rather than actually doing it live. Real world experience, the simulations can be tailored, developed such a way that you can bring the actual real world into the classroom. And of course, it is cost effective and easily accessible. Apart from that, one of the important things that we see with digital simulations is that a lot of data-driven decision making takes place, and this is very important in the future, because all the managers or executives will be facing or coming up with a lot of data. That, just as Vishnuji mentioned, there's a lot of big data things which will be encountered by many of these people. It promotes team collaboration, and the simulations can be adapted to various industries. For example, you can have a business simulation for pharmaceutical industry, which is different from a manufacturing firm or different from an IT company. Similarly, topic-based simulations can also be found. One for supply chain managers, something for sales and marketing, and something for HR people. We have simulations like this for different verticals as well as different functions. Before I go into a video and also the actual simulation, I wanted to show that, one of the things that is important in digital simulations or any game-based simulation is that there are different types of drivers. Why do people want or learn different? Why do they learn in an environment where there is a kind of there's a game-based simulation? That is because according to Bartle is another psychologist and an HR person who a game-based who is actually a gamification expert. According to him, there are different types of people who come and play games. There are originally, according to him, there are four classifications or four types. The first one is socializer, explorer, achievers, and killers. Imagine that you're playing a single video game. For example, you're playing either Candy Crush or you're playing Temple Run or something. So this was originally done from that perspective, but later on adapted to corporate environment. And the corporate environment, it was adapted and made into 5 different classes. The first one is exploring. That means people who are driven by exploring things, to explore. They would like to learn through simulations on game-based simulations. They like to explore the world, world of different areas, and you can teach these kind of people all very different things. Second is collecting. People who are driven by collection. That is, they are the ones who like to collect a lot of stars, prizes, titles, coupons. They would like to come and learn using game-based simulations. This is what drives them, which it is difficult to provide in other kind of learning situations, learning methods. Progression. Now, this is a type of driver wherein the people who are driven by this, they like to follow a storyline, just like a web series, They like to go on getting involved chapter by chapter with the whole story, and they want to see how it is unfolding and what they can learn through it. They learn through small pieces of activities. like project management, change management, dual languages. These are the kind of topics that these people will learn very quickly through progression. Fourth is competition. This is the most common thing that game-based simulations promote. I mean, this is the driver is that these people who are competition driven, they are the people who want the highest score every time. They compete in the environment. In addition, they want to stay ahead of their friends and colleagues. These are the kind of people who are motivated by this. And finally, challenge. This is a driver for those people who want to solve puzzles and they are interested in action-based games. Now, digital simulation offers all of this at different levels for people who come and learn this. And that's why digital simulations are very attractive, or rather very interesting for people to come and learn certain things using digital simulation. I would now like to show another video, a little bit longish video. It's about 12 minutes. But it is very important. Before I actually show the video, I would like to tell what it is. It's a speaker's name is Katie Mumau. She's a learning expert, L&D expert. And what she says primarily, because in this whole video, is that change learning from a moment to a movement. That means make learning as a kind of a movement within the organization. Second point that she drives home is learning in tandem with experience or practice has the highest impact. And third is do the right thing when no one is watching. This video is a very interesting video, which I hope you'll enjoy this. So I'll play this video here now.
I propose that we
Yeah, you will have to switch the screen. The visual is not on. You will have to.
Yeah, I'm doing it. Is it okay?
No.
The video.
The visual is not visible. So
I'm doing it.
now it will come. I think when you play, yes.
sometimes learning isn't what you think. It's the summer of 1999 and I'm 14 years old. It's hot and muggy in Northeast Ohio and I'm baling hay with my grandpa Leroy and my sister Abby. Now, when you bale hay with my grandfather, it's always assumed that you know the rules and that they're strictly followed. 2 hands up like this means stop, we've got a problem. A thumbs up or rotating your shoulder means good to go. And moving your hand like this means cut the engine. We've got a major issue. So today, Grandpa and I are baling the hay, and Abby is driving the tractor, and Grandpa and I are doing the stacking. The last rule is that you're only to stack the hay bales 5 rows high. Grandpa and I are doing the stacking, and I look back, and he's no longer on the wagon. Abby, stop! Abby! I jump off the wagon and kneel down. Grandpa, are you okay? He says yes as he tries to get up, but can't. We find out hours later that he's broken his hip. A few days later, we're back out on that flatbed wagon while a farmhand drives the tractor and Grandpa's hip heals. Abby and I are doing the stacking. We go 5 rows high. I yell, go in or go up. We look at each other in the moment and decide, We're going to go on up. We've got the skills to do this. We go 6, 7, 8, 9 rows high. It is awesome. We are just about done for the day, and we're circling the outer edge of the field, and off pulls a black SUV. Out jumps a man with a fancy camera. Abby and I look at each other and look back at him. He's taking pictures of us, probably because our wagon is so impressive. He walks over to us and says, "Who owns this farm, and what are your names?" "This is Leroy Wuthrick's farm, and we are Abby and Katie Wuthrick." As he pulls away that day, we look at one another and think, what if Grandpa sees that picture? Oh well, there's nothing we can do in the moment. Sure enough, the next day on the cover of the Alliance Review, there we are. And sure enough, Grandpa sees it too and is visibly disappointed. So I ask my dad, "What's the big deal?" He responds, "It's not about your ability, it's about safety. What happens if you're driving that load down the road and hit a pothole and it all comes tumbling down, causing a car accident? Or if it starts to rain, at that height, it doesn't even fit into the barn and you could jeopardize the quality." He says, it's not about doing the right thing when everyone's watching. It's about doing the right thing when no one's watching. For a moment, business today, isn't it all about the moment? We act before we think, we train with no measure of success, and focus on the short-term win. Ready, fire, aim. This is not the path to success in farming or your business. I have learned some extraordinary things in my early upbringing on the farm about learning that are deeply valuable, and that I think the corporate culture could learn something from the agriculture world. Today, I'd like to discuss how I think that learning and development could be drastically improved in our business world. Just like Grandpa was teaching me to respect the process of how things are done, I am emphasizing that we must also focus on how learning is done in our corporations, and how the development of our most precious resource, our people, is one of the most important decisions we can make. If your people matter, we must dare to take learning from a moment to a movement. Let me describe how I'm using the word moment. Every year, billions of dollars is spent and wasted in training development of our employees. According to Forbes, 87.6 billion is spent in America on developing our employees. The good news is that our corporations are spending money to develop and train their employees. The bad news is that, like most of you, I know that many of these trainings aren't helping to move the needle, make our employees more actively engaged to increase the bottom line. That's the problem. Many of these trainings aren't generative or developmental. They're a momentary training for a temporary problem. That's what I mean by a moment, a quick fix. Now, I propose that we move away from one-off moments and toward a movement, an evolving movement with an educational model. Let's look back to the farm for inspiration. 1 century ago, the National Smith-Hughes Vocational Act was passed. This act emerged from America's need at the turn of the century to have youth that are more ready for their lives ahead. Society needed youth who were able to learn in the classroom, problem solve through supervised experiences, and lead and develop leadership skills. From this act emerged the 3 circles of agricultural education: classroom, supervised agricultural experience, and the FFA. The FFA is formally known as the Future Farmers of America. I know that this motto has some lessons and is the ideal framework to move our culture to a learning culture. I've adapted the 3 circles of agricultural education to the 3 circles of infinite potential: learn, experience, and lead. First, we must decide to create an all-in learning culture. Second, we must commit to shared experiences, because shared experiences motivate and inspire. And third, we must decide to intentionally lead ourselves, because leadership starts from within. If you see up on the screen where the gold is, where those 3 components overlap, that's the sweet spot. That's where exponential growth lives in your infinite potential. Let's start with learn. We must create an all-in learning culture. Everyone must be on board with perpetuating this norm from the very top. Within this learn circle is our typical classroom instruction: webinars, podcasts, seminars. When we focus on learning in a typical classroom setting, we are able to better serve our employees. You may be asking yourself, what should we be learning? It's pretty simple. Ask your people, what are your gifts and innate skills? What are your learned skills? Make a list and keep a record. This isn't to know and then dispose. It's to know and to grow. It's an evolving list. Next, decide. What books, podcasts, seminars are you and your people going to commit to this year? When we learn in the classroom setting, we can grow with our experiences. What happens if we're learning to stack hay on a flatbed wagon and we just throw you up on the wagon and say, figure it out? Sure, you get it eventually, right, by trying and watching and learning and failing, but we're losing valuable time. What if I taught you the basics in the classroom of the physics of stacking rectangular bales, what to do with your arms and your legs? Your growth would happen at a much more accelerated rate. Now let's change context to something like project management. Can you see how this might apply here too? If you're learning about project management from a book or seminar in tandem with an experience, your growth rate will extremely accelerate. This experience is the focus of the next circle. We must commit to shared experiences. Feedback loops are an essential element to fast, easy, and effective learning. Next, let's talk about the final circle, lead. We must decide to intentionally lead ourselves, because leadership starts from within. We need to make sure that our employees are setting goals in all 3 areas. When we lead ourselves, we know the value that we can provide. So, what are the things that we can do to start taking this moment and shifting to an evolving movement? Because people matter. People matter more than temporary problems. We must decide that we will encourage and insist that our employees set specific, measurable, attainable, relatable, and time-bound goals in each of these 3 circles. We must decide to create an all-in learning culture. We must Commit to shared experiences. Because when we share experiences, we enrich those people around us. And we must intentionally lead ourselves, because then we can be better leaders for everyone. I challenge you to do the right thing when no one's watching, and to start believing and investing in your infinite potential. Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yeah,
Now
you're
we
audible.
can hear you.
I'm just trying to put the screen large.
Yes.
You can see the screen. Yeah.
Yes.
So just wanted to recap what she said was changing learning from a moment to a movement. Learning in tandem with experience or practice has the highest impact, and do the right thing when no one is watching. I think that was I mean, these are the 3 points that I'm just highlighting. Though she said many other things that were worth listening to from the point of view that how learning and development is changing, to the point what are the future trends in learning and development. Uh, about finance, strategy and growth, customer, people, and HR. People, that is HRIQ and assets or operations. So in order to cover these 5 areas that will make a person almost like an entrepreneur, these are the areas that any entrepreneur needs to be good at. And companies today would they call either intrapreneur, or they want their people to be leaders of smaller organization within a larger organization. They want their people to be entrepreneurs. Then business acumen becomes very, very critical, because business acumen deals with solving complex business issues that cut across multiple business areas. IQ is the term that we use just for trying to say the knowledge level. And in any business, 1 or 2 IQs will be dominant in a complex business issue, while others could be contributing. For example, when we lose a market, when we are losing market to competition and we are losing customers, the effect is not only due to sales and marketing. It could be that we don't have the right people with the right skills, or maybe our processes and assets are not okay. Maybe our strategy itself is not fine. So different areas contribute towards making a problem complex. And these areas the degree of each area could vary depending upon the business issue. So when we are trying to provide learning to participants, people, as to how to be an entrepreneur or act like an entrepreneur in a company so that your company becomes more profitable, then we cover these topics to teach business acumen. And the way the structure of this simulation, which I'm going to show you on the screen, is that we first create teams. Suppose there are 20 people or 40 people learning about business acumen. Then we divide the 40 people into teams of say 4 or 5 people each. So there can be 5 teams or 10 teams like that. Now each team, you can see here, is a group of people acting like a company. Each team is a company, and they have to run this company. So within a team, they can play the role of either an MD, one person plays the role of a CEO, sales director, operations director, and finance director. So they all are managing companies, different companies, but they are all competing in the same market and they're having the same products. These people are actually taking over a company, a running company, and they now have to make it more profitable by making decisions that will either enhance the top line or the bottom line or the market share or what other strategic objective that they may have. So this is the background around which the simulations are done. It is similar to a multiplayer game. It's not a game like a chess game or a temple run game that you play against a video, against a computer, but here you are actually playing against different teams. Therefore, the decisions that team one makes, suppose you make a decision here as a team member, the outcome of this decision is not impacted only by your decisions. The outcome is impacted equally by what others also decide. Okay, so for example, when you decide to increase the price, others may also increase the price more than you have increased. And that differential in the price changes can have an impact on your market share or profitability. So this is basically the background is it's a team game, decisions to be made in different areas of business. So let me just go to the actual business simulation itself. Now I'm sharing a different screen. I hope you are able to see the screen, which is showing. Can you see the screen called velocity?
Yes,
Hello?
sir, it's visible.
Yeah. So this is the opening page of the simulation, live simulation. It's played on the internet. Actually, we are logged on to the internet, and this is how the screen will appear for somebody who is playing this game on business acumen. So all teams are playing this game. So each team will enter certain credentials to log in. So once they enter, they go to what you call a screen of the baseline. Basically, all teams are starting from the same starting point. They have the same common starting point. Nobody has any advantage with respect to any of the financial or markets. So baseline gives an idea about what the company is, what were the company's sales, what were the prices of the products. There were two products that the company was selling. These were the number of units sold, the market price of the products, the total demand, and this was the market share. Now, all the companies will have the same market share of 25% because there were 4 teams that were playing this game. Along with the market, some basic market information, when they took over the company, there is certain capital information given, like equity, number of shares, how much money was put in plant and equipment from this equity. Along with this, the financial statement for the last year, which is, in terms of revenue, cost, the COGS, gross profit, EBITDA, and taxes, and net profit is given to them. Here itself, if there are certain people who are engineers who have not been into, or not learned different areas of management, they start learning something about finance here. So the basic introduction to finance in terms of how a P&L statement is not constructed, but how it is used, they will start learning here. Along with that is provided a cash flow statement. So people need to understand what is a cash flow statement. The left side is all the payments made. The right side is all the receipts in the cash receipts last year, and what was the net cash position of the company at the end of the year. So this particular simulation, they started, if we call it as around 0, they start with a positive cash flow, and they had a profit in the last year, and they were selling 2 products, so many products sold, like that. So this is the starting point, which is common to all the people, all the 4, 5 teams or 10 teams. Now that they have taken over, they have to decide as to what they want to do in order to either grow their market share or increase the profitability, bottom line or the top line. And the way they do it is they will play 4 rounds, round 1, 2, 3, and 4. And the way we conduct this simulation is that before every round, we have a conceptual input provided to the participants. So conceptual input relate to strategy or finance or customer, those 5 boxes that you saw earlier. We provide that input and then they play a round. After the round, they say debriefing. Now, within the round, they have to make certain decisions. Okay. So when this is all actually on the internet that we are saying, the decisions panel will tell them that, the simulation provides various navigation tabs. People can see the guidelines on the net itself, on the internet. They can see the decision making screens. They can look at reports before making decisions. After making decisions, everybody has made a decision. They can see how they perform using the dashboard, and they can get into detailed performance analysis using this particular screen. So, for example, if they want to decide what should be the price and product feature, because any entrepreneur or any company that starts has to first decide what they would like to sell in the market, what price they would set for the product, and what will be the amount of production, what will be the marketing strategy, all these things. So this screen provides a screen for giving the product features. What should be the product features for each of these 2 products, product A and product B. So there is a panel available here which decides as to what are the features that you would like to provide, the degree, the quality of the feature. As the quality increases, the cost increases. If the quality is reduced, the cost reduces. So that is the kind of dilemma or management dilemma that participants will have to undertake and decide, that should they provide better quality at same price? Should they provide better quality at a higher price? Or should they provide better quality at a lower price? Or should they provide lower quality at a lower price? Many options are available to people who want to make a decision, and that's how the learning takes place. So here they will decide whether what's the product features, deciding how decisions made in one area affect the other. So these are the various things that we can see in a digital simulation. I would now like to come back to the original thing. Yeah. Is my slide on the screen, sir?
Yes, sir, it's visible.
Yeah. So we were on the simulation game. So that was a brief, introduction or demonstration to the game. With that, I would like to bring this I would like to conclude by summarizing what we saw in this webinar till now. The first is that L&D is not about learning, but value created for others. This is what Dave Ulrich, the HR, one of the HR doyens. Second, we heard from Lisa Stews. Actually, she's sourcing data from World Economic Forum that critical thinking learn, experience, and lead. And finally, we just went through a brief demonstration of the digital simulation on business and commercial acumen, which we have branded as Velocity. So this was all what I wanted to cover in this webinar, so that keeping it a little tight. And I hope you all have been enjoyed it a little bit, at least. And if there are any questions, I'd be happy to take it.
Right. Thank you so much, sir. We are open for questions. Please put your questions in the chat box. But before I do that, just give me 2 minutes. First of all, let me compliment you for a very excellent presentation. it really explained to us what digital simulations are and what they can do. In fact, since I am a bit oriented to these, let me tell you, it's always difficult to explain and actually, make people understand sensitivity analysis. So what you have done in your simulation really helps them to explain it, because moment you go to the first round, second round, third round, minor variations which you do in your price or in your product features, how it impacts, when you actually see that, it will make it so much more relevant. And the most important thing which I must say, I mean, you really pointed it out about it being a low risk exercise. Let me share with you, friends, that over time I have realized that experience is the best teacher, but it is often the most costliest one. So what happens is, you really pay a huge price when you actually learn from experience. So here we are getting an opportunity through the digital simulations to learn as if it's really happening, without actually paying a price other than the cost of the learning. So therefore, you're not paying a business price for it, nor are you wasting time. So, and simultaneously, so many employees getting honed up on it. So, well, if you will permit me, I want to ask a first question, so that will probably set it rolling. I mean, I see immense possibilities. So have you thought of doing things like this? For example, now when you're running a business, you need a DuPont analysis. You're given ratios, but if there could be more visuals, like, I mean, as a team participant, I can see graphs or charts. Probably they are already there in your software, but that would make it even more interesting and lifelike. Because I was just thinking, if I was to calculate it, my game will become slow. So probably you can have hidden resources available that, okay, I ask for a chart, I ask for a break-even point, I get that analysis. If those kind of things are you planning to do those, or
Yes,
are they
yes.
there already?
Some of them are already there in the reports, and there are so many reports. Some of the reports carry this information, and uh, they are built into the various the tabs in that. So you can actually see the DuPont tree is not there, but break-even analysis is there.
Right. Yes, yes. That
And of
would be
course,
a given.
and as you said, many of these things, as we evolve over a period of time, we have versions. So as versions keep changing, we keep
No,
adding
and
this thing. So we can
another
keep adding.
question, then I'll take from the chat box. What prompted you to put a price on certain reports? Because what I was reminded of was the watermelon problem. Because of that, expected value of perfect information. So every piece of information comes with a cost associated with it.
Yeah.
And how, getting perfect information sometimes is not really helpful, because if you solve it with a lesser information, you get a better payout. So what made you think of that? I mean, we would like to understand your thought behind it, if it is
Yeah.
possible.
First of all, in this simulation, what we are assuming is that all these companies are public limited companies. So some of their financial data is available on either BSE or NSE or any stock exchange. And in real life, practical life, what we have seen is that there are many reports that companies need to buy in order to make certain decisions, especially in sales and marketing or HR or operations. For example, in sales and marketing, the typical reports about market potential and what competitors are doing is a report that they have to pay and get. If somebody has to do market research, it has to be paid and got. So in order to reflect the reality that information is not freely available on the internet, but that you need to buy. And what I have seen is, sir, that many people don't buy the report to save the cost. But the games are such that the more you buy, the more
Absolutely.
informed you are.
Correct.
Okay,
Very
and
true.
they can make decisions out of it.
Yeah. We have a question on the chat box. I think it's probably in the minds of a lot of people. Chaitanya Dalal is asking, is this velocity simulation available, and how does one access it?
Yeah, we actually use it as a tool to conduct training programs. It is not because it is to be played in a team. It is not played against a computer. It has to be played in teams. So what we do is we make it available for a team of people if they want to use it. But per se we use, because along with the idea of this simulation is to give inputs to the participants and then practice it and take a feedback from each other and do the debriefing. So it doesn't, unless somebody is very well versed in all 5 areas of teaching, if they are well versed, we give only a we give the software for as a license to use it.
Yes, I think Kiran sir wants to ask something. Yes, sir, go on. Yes, Dr. Kiran. I think he had raised his hand. Okay.
Yeah.
Just one thing. So, I mean, as I understand it, this software would be a part of a training program. So, if you subscribe to the training program or you undergo the training, you would be able to use the software.
Use
That
it,
that
yes.
is how the
Yeah.
current model is.
Yeah, because
Correct.
the navigation
So,
and all that is such that it needs some bit of training
yes,
before anybody can use it.
absolutely. So, it's a training tool which is used as a part of the
Programs, yes.
training program. Okay, right. Any other questions, you can raise your hand and directly ask. There is no problem. Unmute yourself and ask. Or raise your hand and I'll unmute you. I think Dr. Kiran was trying, but couldn't reach. Okay, I have another one in the meantime, if you permit me to ask.
Yeah.
That was, do the scores get affected by actions of the others? Just wanted a little bit more clarity on it.
Yes, yes, it very
So
much.
you have a simulation or you have some kind of program built in under it so that it takes into account and creates a market.
Yeah,
You're,
the
in short, you're
algorithm.
creating a sandbox like a market, an artificial market you're creating, a mechanism
Yes,
probably.
there is an algorithm whereby if one team changes any of the decisions, for example, if they the price, so if they lower the price, their market share, in a general knowledge, common sense way, it should increase.
Yes.
But that increase comes at the cost of others' loss.
Okay.
It's like a zero sum game. Therefore, if their market
Okay.
share changes from X to X plus delta X plus Y,
Hmm.
somebody else's market share will reduce
Okay.
from Y to some other level.
Right.
It does affect. Every decision affects the other.
Okay.
Dr. Kajetan D'Souza sir wants to say something. I think he
Yes,
raised
yes.
his hand.
Yeah, please unmute or I'll unmute you. 1 minute. Please unmute yourself. I've
Kiran,
asked him to unmute, but I think he's
Kiran sir is also back. He also said whether he is audible, but it's not.
no, he's not.
Just now there was a flash there.
Otherwise, probably, can you ask it in the chat box? I'll read it out. Kajetan sir, you just type it in the chat box.
Kajetan sir hasn't unmuted himself. So shall I unmute him?
Yes, I can't unmute him. I'm asking him to unmute, but
One second. I'll see if I
just try
can.
if you can do it.
I don't know how to. I think it is he who has to do it. No, I'm not able to.
Yes, I have sent him a message to unmute himself. I'm press that, so he'll get it on his screen.
Unmute. I'm not able to do that one.
Okay, okay.
Mute all. इथे काय बाबा? आहे पण he's not. I'm not able to unmute him. Asked to unmute केलंय. But he is not able to do it. That he's not doing it. इथे काय आहे?
It's okay. Any other questions?
Ask all to unmute. No need. Yeah.
I think Kiran sir wanted to ask some question which I'm seeing in the chat box.
Yeah,
His
but
question was,
Yeah, can you see me? So I'll tell him we cannot. I'll just type it.
if he has posted the question, we can see that one.
yeah, he has posted a question. Shall I read it out?
Yes, yes, please do.
Yeah, it says, in the case of management decision making, simulated learning helps faster, and practice more frequently. Now, has this been scientifically established or is it a general obvious observation? Uh, we saw the triangle in the beginning in terms of retention, learning and retention. That is an established fact through certain research papers where we saw, because I'm a member of one of the, the Association of Business Simulations in the US.
Okay.
It is used in the many institutes and they report and the articles are there on it, which says that, retention is better and learning is more interesting. The feedback has been learning is, and people tend to learn faster or not, we don't know, but at least retention rate is higher, or the interest rate and the commitment to learn is little higher, is what I see there. Yeah, Kiran sir is on the call.
Yeah, his question is answered. I had one more question. If before, I mean, wait for a few questions to come, but what I wanted to know was, see, normally one associates learning and development, especially developing executive leadership, with building organizational value or developing and implementing strategy, having a credibility in the leadership, probably communication or being there, leading from the front. There are many aspects which are often discussed. So do you think there are any other uses to which this, because I see a lot of potential in it. So have you ever tried to use it for any other purposes, any other kinds of training other than
we
this?
have simulations particularly done for change management.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, we have simulations for critical thinking.
Okay, but can you just tell us in a few words? I mean, I know it's difficult, but how do you do that for critical thinking and for, say, change management, both the cases?
If you look at change management, the way it has been done, our simulation is that as a top team, you're going to manage a change from being a product company to a solutions company. So the company is changing from a product selling company to a solutions company. In the process, the company has to undertake organization restructuring, where it has to change the structure of sales department, as well as change certain structures in the operations and operations department. Now, when these kind of changes come about, they have to go and implement this change. The thing is, they have to implement the changes, and then during this implementation, there are different routes that they can follow. Okay, different routes of changes that they can follow. Now, the game takes them through this change simulation in terms of what are the decisions you make while changing the organization structure, while changing the compensation structure, or changing the processes within the company. So the change management deals with this because many people think change management is all about communication and convincing. But the actual thing is that change management here, it deals not only with communication is one part or convincing is one part, but creating the context for change is more important. If the context for change is understood, people tend to be aware. Now we teach them the whole cycle of being, aware, then resistance, then fear, then all that, all those curves that are there in change management. So change management simulation is basically about change in the market, change in the approach to the market from a product company to a solutions. In critical thinking, we have sub modules, small modules, wherein we are talking about when we change a particular, the simulation is more about managing like a business, business acumen, but it's a portion of it where changes are made with respect to budgets and sales price and all that. So that's a critical thinking that is similar, 70% similar to business acumen, but minor differences are there.
Okay, all right.
But change management is a totally different simulation.
Right. Thank you so much. I think Dr. Kiran.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, absolutely. We can see you and hear you.
Thank
even
you so
I can
much.
even I can be I can talk also now.
I think there was something wrong with the setting. We were unmuting ourselves, but we couldn't be heard. So first of all, Gangadhar ji, my apologies that for all the glitches and the fact that I couldn't sign in from the moment you started. But I must pat myself on my back for having associated with you, because I think Your presentation was excellent. You clearly explained the concept of learning and development, and you have so strongly brought out the role of simulation in the learning process that I think and anyone who has attended this should definitely be more than convinced. Your product velocity, I've had the privilege of seeing the demo even earlier. I think it's one of the most beautifully designed, well thought of, and you've paid so much attention to detail that I feel sometimes that had I been 40 years, 45 years younger, then I would have had the opportunity to learn through your simulation process rather than the University of Hard Knocks, where we had to go and keep failing all the time before we learned something. So thank you so much. I think BMA is definitely privileged. For the sake of all those who are here in this group today, I would definitely like to announce that Gangadharji's company, Cube Acumen, has an MOU with BMA, whereby he is going to regularly offer simulation programs that will induct people into the possibility of how simulation can be used for the learning and development process. And furthermore, his company also has the capability of developing programs which are very, very specifically customized to be able to what he calls is the theory of you know being able to learn faster and practice more often. So I think that definitely is something that should have. Gangadharji, if I may just allude, in fact, I spent 40 years in the aviation industry. Okay, and in the aviation industry, earlier, let's say for example, the DGCA in India had a rule that if you want a commercial pilot's license, you must physically fly an aircraft for a minimum 250 hours. Okay. Now that meant a huge amount of investment, a huge amount of fuel being used, and a lot of replenishment of the resources. And one assumed that the person has learned at 250 hours and should now be capably demonstrating ability to fly an aircraft. But from the time simulation has come in, okay, the learning process of the pilots has gone up multiple number of times because, uh, you know, uh, some of the senior pilots, they say that in a simulated environment that you do your training and you do your exams, you come across situations that they haven't come across in their 30 years of flying. Okay, because that's the type of added advantage that it brings in. The instructor can just simply put one engine on fire and watch how you manage the entire scene. He can create an environment of thunder and showers and high speed
Yes.
tailwinds, and
True.
he can then actually watch you manage the aircraft. And today it's a fly by wire technology. So simulation in has gone far beyond reality. In fact, it has trained people to multiple redundancy levels. Okay, there are pilots who have retired after flying aircrafts for 40 years and never ever been in this real life situation. And God forbid if such a thing had to happen, okay, whether they what would be their reactions. But simulation has changed the game. And I think this concept that you brought into management practice and thinking, I think hats off to you for actually, uh, you know, uh, looking at every situation in a very meticulous, minute way and trying to bring in all the deviations. And, you even thinking in terms of critical thinking, change management, which they say is a constant process. I think the future is definitely going to be a much faster learning process. I just wanted to ask you one more question. Do you think simulation is probably going to take on normal learning, and the percentage of what we call as the the regular learning processes, non-digitalized, over a period of time they will get uh, reduced or extinguished? And then what happens happens in terms of, you know, the human touch, because now with generative AI and, you know, so many other algorithms which have come in, simulation is going to get more and more, you know, integrated, and, you know, it's going to become more sharpened. So what do you think? I mean, which are the areas that simulation you think today still has a long way to go to, you know, be able to establish itself?
I think
And thank you very much again for the brilliant presentation and your association with BMA. We are extremely proud.
thank you, sir. Thank you very much for the feedback
Just
and for the very good
Yeah,
words.
there
can
are
I
two questions. So
Sure, sir.
can I say anything?
yes, sir. Kajitan sir, he's just replying Dr. Yadav. Then I'm taking
Okay.
you, and there is a question of Chaitanya Dalal also. Please go ahead and answer, sir.
Yeah, so whether business simulations in general will not be able to replace the entire basket because there are individual-based simulations, group-based simulations, but simulations are yet to be developed for behavioral type of learning, behavioral learning. So behavioral learning will take time for this thing, but simulation learning is good for group learning exercises. It is good for even individual learning, and
Lime
we
also.
see a lot of this learning. All the computer programs, software learning is to simulations these days. Most of them. It's
Yes.
the difficulty of the learner to stay tuned on for long periods of time that makes it difficult for them to learn. But otherwise, most of the learning on any computer-based learning, computer-related learning, like software learning or any kind of spreadsheet learning, is all through simulations these days. But group learning may not be fully entirely through simulation. Number one. Number two, things such as skill-based may not be physical skills, like somebody who's into dentistry or somebody who's into this. They are still there are parts which are done through simulations, uh, but behavioral learning may still continue to be non-simulated environment unless we get into VR and AR and all that.
Thank you.
So,
Right. Now there's a question. I think Kajitan sir wants to speak that, and there is a question after that from Chaitanya Dalal.
sure.
Probably Chaitanya's question you can take right away. Are there simulation models in service industry? It must be
Yes,
very challenging.
Of course. Yeah. Of course, we already have one. One is for the SaaS industry, SaaS companies. Actually, I'm just sharing this screen.
Okay.
In the screen, is my screen visible to all?
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
Yeah, you can see this blue tab called service management.
Okay.
This service
Yes.
management is actually meant for service industry.
Okay.
So it basically deals with a SaaS company and SaaS company simulation, where the elements of decision making are quite different from a manufacturing company.
Okay.
These elements are very different from a manufacturing company. So although the screens, it's called quantum. The one which we saw was called velocity. This is called quantum. And here the lot of things deal with respect to people, because here there is no raw material and production and all that. But here it is more to do with hiring, how many people will be on the bench and all that. So anytime if you are interested, sir, separately I'll take you.
Okay. Thank you. Kajitan sir.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Gangadhar sir, I liked your presentation on learning and development, which I also try to give it. But I have a bit of an issue. The issue is that I started simulation from 2002 in Mumbai, and I've been giving it right to all the colleges as possible. But many colleges are dropping out because of the cost involved. What is your take on this cost involved, and whether the guys can afford it or not? Because I try to use it at some colleges. That's the first. Second is I do simulation like Mike's Bikes. I do simulation like BST, which is Business Strategy Game developed by Arthur Thompson. I do Capstone. I do Markstrat. I do Globus. Now, just want to, and they're very, very deep in because I seen you do not have production built into it, new product development built in. I know you change your specs, which is given. Can you start doing this in a cheaper way than those guys from foreign? And and I have done a lot of this for the last 22 years.
Yeah. Sir, it is such
If,
that,
if you come one day to the college, I can show you all I mean, to BMA, I can show you all these 5 simulations also.
yeah, I have seen them, but I nevertheless would like to meet you more, because it's interesting to learn from you also. I have seen Globus, sir, and I have seen Capstone, uh, these things. And as far as the product development or manufacturing is concerned, I have something for we have developed one for supply chain managers, which is dwelling onto transportation, logistics, manufacturing, those areas. I
Okay.
mean, it's a separate module, it's a separate simulation altogether, and we call it as momentum. I will not share the screen, but when I meet you, I'll show it to you. It's a business acumen for supply chain managers. So
Okay.
what we see on velocity is very different from what we see on quantum and what we see on momentum, what we see for change management. They are all very, very different. So that way. But as far as the pricing and fee is concerned, what I have seen, sir, that the need of corporate is little bit different from the need of the students, and the students are the best grounds for to learn all these things, because they catch things very fast in that sense. And the pricing is such, I think we need to, the way the Globus or the way Capstone, they are all priced, they are almost at about $100 or $150 per head, without the teaching thing, without the teaching part of it. Probably they are reducing the price also for India market. The way we have done is we have developed a little bit more complex module for the corporate and little bit less complex module, so that we can manage at a lower volume based thing for the colleges. So we are able to offer to the colleges at a lower price.
Okay.
We do offer to institutes, but at a lower price compared to the corporate. But the modules are also little different.
Okay. Okay, thank you. I think we'll share. I just wanted to know this only, whether you've got different models for different, because the foreign guys don't give us different models for colleges and for corporates. Thank you very much. And we can meet now. We'll keep this separately, and we can talk when we meet again at BMA. I just wanted to know this before I can take it forward with you directly. Okay, thank you, Gangadhar sir. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any more questions? Otherwise,
Vishnu sir, I just wanted to make one comment, if you allow me.
Yes, sir.
I
Sure.
just want to inform Kajitan sir that Gangadhar ji is a true reflection of what we call as Atmanirbhar Bharat coming into play. I have had the opportunity of looking at some of the work that he has done, and I think sooner or later, not only it will replace all the foreign licensed simulators that are being used, but probably he should be able to do this on an international scale on their home ground as well. So we need to take full advantage of this scenario. And one more comment I wanted to make is that Vishnuji, I am so happy that you are a moderator for this session, because I think there could have been no more apt moderator than you, given your background as being the president of Computer Society of India and having done so much. So thank you so very much for having moderated this session.
No. It was a pleasure. In fact, it's an honor and a great opportunity for me to interact with Gangadhar ji on this forum. And I think now, will you do the vote of thanks, or I think Jayant ji will do it? Jayant sir?
Yeah, I'm here.
Please propose a formal vote of thanks.
Yeah, it was really an interesting session and very close to my heart, because I am also in the teaching profession. I started with that, and the simulation. Now I know that word of simulation, but I used it earlier also. And now I see that it is in a new caption way it's coming, and very, very interesting and very useful it is, specifically for teachers like me. Though the simulation games are different for the corporate sectors, but for as a teacher, for me, they are very useful, and it is really a learning and development. I profusely thank you, Mr. Gangadhar, for giving us an enormous informative information, and that too in a very interesting manner and with a great demonstration. So it was a great session, and I liked it. I hope that everyone has been benefited by it. So I thank you very much, and I thank Mr. Dr. Vishnu Kanhere also for moderating this session wonderfully. As Dr. Kiran Yadav said, no other person is so apt for the moderation and that you have done it. So I also thank you for this one on behalf of the BMA. So thank you
and
for all the
thanks to the
listeners
audience.
also.
Yeah, all the
Yeah.
listeners, because they
Yeah.
really interacted well and
Yes.
it added the color to the presentation. Right.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you,
Thank
Vishnu ji.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again.
Bye.
Bye.
Looking forward to taking our relationship to the next level.
Yes.
Of course,
Thank
sir.
Yes.
Yeah.
We'll meet soon. I mean, thank you very much for being there.
Thank you and have a nice day. Thank you, audience, for being there with us, and looking forward to having more sessions with BMA. Thank you,
Thank you.
Gangadhar ji. Thank you, Vishnu ji. And bye for now.